Hallo, ek is Eti. Welkom by my kanaal waar ons als saam doen. Today you learn your next 50 Afrikaans verbs. If you haven't watched my 3 previous videos on Afrikaans verbs, I suggest you do so. But you can start with this one. This one does, however, include a few more difficult verbs or more intricate verbs. And some of these verbs in this video are less used than maybe the ones in the first one. If you have watched the previous 3 verb videos and learned all the verbs in them, and you are now watching this one and you learn all the verbs in this one, then you will know more or less 200 Afrikaans verbs. This can take you pretty far in an Afrikaans conversation. So, without further ado, let's get started on the verbs. Seermaak or maak seer. This is one of the many Afrikaans verbs that have these 2 forms. The one is 1 word and the one is 2 words. So just make sure that you learn which way around it's 1 word and which way around it's 2 separate words. Seermaak or maak seer means to hurt someone or to be hurt by someone. The examples: jou woede maak my seer. Your anger hurts me. Moenie my seermaak nie. Don't hurt me. Seer kry or kry seer. And that means to hurt. So the first example, julle gaan seer kry. You are going to get hurt. And ek kry seer. I am hurting. Scre, scream. Hy skree hard. He screams loudly. Roep, call. This roep refers to calling somebody like, hi, come over here. This is not the call that you make with a phone. So this is roep, to call somebody out loud. And the example, ek roep my hond. I call my dog. Dryf, float. Die blaar dryf op die water. The leaf floats on the water. Now the next one is ever so slightly loaded. That is dryf, depending on the context, dryf, aandryf, or dryf aan. All of those things mean to drive something forward, not like driving a car. That is bestuur, and I think you've learned that in previous videos already. But this dryf refers to driving something either forward or backwards by means of some kind of mechanism. So it's a driving force. Right, so the first example, die engine dryf die trein aan. The engine drives the train. And then, dit dryf my teen die mure uit. Or, jy dryf my teen die mure uit. Very, very often used in Afrikaans. Learn this one. We use it regularly. And that simply means it drives me crazy, or you drive me crazy, not in a positive way. You know, you make me nuts. And there is a saying in English, you drive me up the wall, or it drives me up the wall. And that is exactly what this is. Gedra, to behave or behave. Hy kan homself nie gedra nie. He can't behave himself. And then verdra, to tolerate or tolerate. Learn these 2 because in conversation when you speak quickly, sometimes people do confuse them. Gedra, verdra. So verdra, tolerate. Ek kan hom nie verdra nie. I can't tolerate him. A verb with some duality, that is the word lek. Lek. It means to lick something, or it is leaking. Something is leaking. So learn this one. We use both of them quite often. To lick or something is leaking. The first example, die hond lek my hand. The dog is licking my hand. Die pipe lek. The pipe is leaking. Then rus. That is rest or to rest. Ons rus na werk. We rest after work. These two are very much related. Draai, turn, or to turn. Draai links by die verkeerslig. Turn left at the traffic light. Then the next one, omdraai, or draai om. That means to turn around. So very much related, but definitely not the same thing, right? So omdraai, draai om, turn around. And the example, as jy omdraai, sal jy beter kan sien. If you turn around, you'll be able to see better. This one is a triple thread. Learn this one. So that is the word vaai. Vaai. Firstly, it means to wave, like vaai at someone. The second one is to blow in the wind. So the wind is blowing, die wind vaai. Vaai. In relation to wind. Okay, and the third one is to leave. It is a more colloquial use or much more informal way to say, I'm going to go now. Vaai. So let's look at the examples. The first one, ek vaai vir my vriendin. I wave at my friend. Right, so that's the common one if you think about wave, vaai. That's the one. Then the next one, die wind vaai. The wind is blowing. And then the third one, ons gaan nou vaai. We are going to leave now. Then the next one, hou, keep. It also is a noun. The word hou, just that word, because it is used in combination with another word as well. Hou van, which you don't have to learn now. But hou, hou is also a noun which means a hit, like a punch. When you punch somebody, a hou, that is the punch or the hit, right? But in this context, as a verb, hou is to keep. Ek hou dit by my. I keep it with me. Besit. That means own or to own. Ek besit alles. I own everything. Ondersoek. Now that means to investigate or examine. It is the word we use when you go to the doctor and the doctor examines you. We say that is as a noun, it is a or a ondersoek. But he is also ondersoeking you. Oh my word. The Afringels, Afrikaans English is coming through strongly. Right, so ondersoek is the actual exam, but it is also the verb when you go to the doctor and you are being examined. If there's an investigation taking place, then ondersoek again is also a noun for an investigation, a ondersoek, in the sense of maybe the police or something like that. Then that is a ondersoek as well. And it's also used for the verb to investigate. Am I making sense? I don't know, my eye is tearing up. Lately, that's been one of the symptoms of my health stuff. It's just my eye tearing up and leaking every day, all day, every time I'm awake. So I have to wipe it between takes. It's so annoying. Right, so we have to investigate, to examine in the context. This is specifically in the context of you getting examined by a doctor or by some kind of medical professional. You are being examined. If we look at something like taking an exam, that's a different story. All right, that's not the ondersoek. An exam that you write or test, different words. So this is specifically in these contexts. Die speurder ondersoek die saak. The detective is investigating the case. And then die dokter ondersoek die patiënt. The doctor examines the patient. These two verbs can cause quite a bit of confusion. The one is ruil, and it can mean to exchange, to switch, to swap, and in some cases, to trade. It is not the word for trade, but sometimes it can mean to trade. Ruilhandel is the Afrikaans word for barter. Now, let's look at the examples. Wil jy plekke met my ruil? Do you want to trade places with me? Wil jy sitplekke met my ruil? Do you want to switch seats with me? The next one, omruil. Omruil means to exchange, to switch, to swap, but not to trade. So trade, if it is in the context of trade, like ruilhandel, it will never be omruil. Omruil is not included in that. But omruil is definitely always the one used when you want to exchange clothes. So when you go to a shop in South Africa and you speaking Afrikaans, you want to exchange clothes, then you'll tell them omruil. I want to omruil. I want to omruil. Omruil is the one you're looking for in that specific situation. Ek gaan die klere omruil. I am going to exchange the clothes. Steek, to stab. Now before we move on, the word steek is also used as a very rude way to refer to the act of sex. It is not something you will ever use in polite conversation. However, every Afrikaans speaking individual will definitely understand what you mean if you use it in that context. But it is extremely rude and not to be used in polite conversation. I won't advise anyone to ever use it in that context. I'm just saying that if you do wonder about people laughing and they're having a certain conversation in Afrikaans and they use that word, it is most likely not referring to stabbing someone with a knife. Just saying. Right, so the example, steek met 'n mes. Stab with a knife. The next one, steek weg or wegsteek means to hide something. There is a different word when you are hiding. So wegsteek, steek weg is the act of hiding something. Ek gaan die paaseiers wegsteek. I am going to hide the Easter eggs. Moving from steek to naai. Can't even believe I've said that on camera. Anyway, the word naai is also a very nice Afrikaans word if used in the correct context. Mostly South Africans use it in the absolute wrong context in extremely vulgar ways. So the meaning of naai is to stitch or sew. The vulgar meaning is to have sex. Right, so often if you're in South Africa, you'll hear people say to you, yo naai. That's a terrible thing to say to somebody, yo naai, yo fucker. It means you fucker, basically, is what it means. And you'll hear it often, depending on the community you find yourself in, but if you're in South Africa long enough, you're definitely going to hear it. Then, ons naai. Oh, what am I saying? We are having sex. Also very often used, but it is vulgar. It really is vulgar. It's not something that somebody will ever use when they're not inclined to swearing or vulgar speech, and definitely not in polite conversation. Then the last one, naai machine, sewing machine. That is the correct form that you find it in, is naai machine, sewing machine. Although when we refer to sewing a dress, you don't really use the word naai as the verb in that sentence, so you won't say ek naai machine. I'm not going to let this down. Anyway, you won't use it in that context. Then you'll go to the next one, which is stik. So in the sentence, when you are sewing a dress, you'll say ek stik met die naai machine. So the action of sewing would be stik in that context. And then stik can also be choke, although that's not really the one we use. You can use it. It's not really the one we use. We'll get to the next one that is truly when you choke and when you'll use it in as a verb in a sentence. But it has the same meaning. Right. Then at the bottom, the example, ek stik die rok. I sew the dress. Although stik does mean to stitch, when you're talking about needle and thread, it's not, you don't use stick in that case. So if it's needle and thread that you're stitching something with, that's a whole different conversation. That's not the verb stick. Okay, now we have verstik. Verstik, that is to choke. Ek verstik aan my kos. I choke on my food. Pluck, to pick, to pluck, or to jerk. Also used in a negative context in Afrikaans, I think you can imagine. Ek pluk vere. I pluck feathers. Ek pluk vrugte. I pick fruit. Kruis, to cross. Now, kruis in Afrikaans is only used in the context of to cross when you're talking about crossing your arms. It's not crossing a road. That's a different verb. It's also a noun, as in across, the biblical cross. Sy kruis haar arms. She crosses her arms, or she is crossing her arms. Then belig, that is to illuminate. Die vertrek is goed belig. The room is well lit. Regmaak, or maak reg. To fix. Maak jou fout reg. Fix your mistake. The next one, herstel, that means to recover, and mostly in the context of injury or illness. So an individual or a person is recovering. That would be herstel. It can also be used in the context of fixing something like a car or a house. Is most often used in the noun herstelwerk, which refers to work being done on a house or a car to fix it, or to recover its former glory, if you will, herstelwerk. But most often the word herstel as a verb is used when it's recovery of illness or injury or after surgery. Ons herstel van griep. We recover from the flu. Here we have two more related ones. First one, saamstem or stemsaam. That is to concur or agree. Ons stem saam. We agree. The next one is instem or stem in. So learn these two because they are easy to get mixed up. Instem or stem in. That is to consent or agree. So that's when you agree to do something. You give your consent, then that's instem. Sy het ingestem om saam met ons te gaan. She agreed to go with us. Ek sal instem wanneer ek gemaklik voel. I will consent when I feel comfortable. Stem, vote or to vote. This is also the noun for voice. So stem is the noun for voice. It's also the verb for to vote. Ek stem vir die beste party. I vote for the best party. Then bestel. That is to order something. Ek bestel goed van Amazon. I order things from Amazon. Versoek. Versoek. To request something. Yet again, this is also a noun, and that means a request. Now, these two are very closely related. With the previous one, we had stem, which is to vote or voice for the noun. Those two are far removed, but in this one's case, they are not at all removed. So, om te versoek, the verb to request, but also versoek, the verb request. The noun, the noun, request. Down at the bottom, ons versoek u samewerking. We request your cooperation. And then aanvra or vra aan, very closely related to request as a verb. Request or solicit or requisition. Ek vra die boek aan. I request the book. Gek skeer or skeer gek. That is to joke. Now in Afrikaans, we quite often use the word joke in the Afrikaans context and not really gek skeer. We do use it. but it's often the case where you'll just use joke as a verb and a noun. Hy het met hom die gek geskeer. He joked around with him, or he played a joke or a trick or a prank on him. Grap maak, maak 'n grap. To joke or to make a joke. We use maak 'n grap very often. So if we don't say, in Afrikaans we often say ek joke net, which is using the English word in the Afrikaans sentence. But I think just as often, probably, ek maak 'n grap, which means I'm making a joke, quite literally. So that's what you really want to learn in the context. Gekskeer, it's a bit more formal, bit less used. Maak 'n grap, that one's very, very often used. Oh, my word order. Used often. Just learn that one. Maak 'n grap. Make a joke. Jy grap seker. This is often said. Jy grap seker. You must be joking. Jy maak seker 'n grap. You must be joking. Ek maak 'n grap. I am joking. Disintegreer. Close to the English to disintegrate. Die ou klere het heeltemal gedisintegreer. The old clothes have completely disintegrated. That's my clothes. Oh, verbrokkel, to crumble. Die cookie het verbrokkel. The cookie crumbled. Blaas, blow. Now, that is to blow bubbles. Remember, we talked about vai in the context of the wind is blowing. So when the wind is blowing, we use vai. But when you are blowing a bubble, then it is blaas. So just remember that difference between those two. Hy blaas borrels. He blows bubbles. Uitvind, to find out. Ek sal môre uitvind wat aangaan. I will find out what is going on tomorrow. Vat 'n kans. Take a chance. Jy vat 'n vet kans. You are taking a fat chance. Jy vat 'n vet kans is pretty often used, so you can learn that one. Waag, to risk. Gaan jy dit waag? Are you going to risk it? Bars, burst. Die ballon bars. The balloon bursts. Ontdek, discover. Hulle het diamante ontdek. They discovered diamonds. Val uitmekaar, falls apart. My huis val uitmekaar. My house is falling apart. My kar val uitmekaar. My car is falling apart. Aansoek doen, apply for. Ek gaan môre aansoek doen vir werk. I am going to apply for a job tomorrow. Here we have 3 words with the potential to create massive confusion. The first one is styg, to rise. We often in Afrikaans use this when the temperature is going up, something like that. Then we use styg. So in the example, die temperatuur styg vinnig. The temperature is rising quickly. The next one, die duikboot styg na die oppervlakte. The submarine rises to the surface. And then the next word is bestyg. And that is to ascend. Bestyg is only used in the context of ascend, and it's very specifically ascending the stairs or ascending the stage. Then you will use bestyg. We do not use bestyg when we talking about an airplane taking off. No. Just no. So bestyg, very much specifically for that, going upstairs or going up the stage. Maybe ascending the mountain, ek bestyg die berg. I don't know. I've never used that. Opstyg or styg op. That is also to rise, and very much specifically to ascend up in the air. So opstyg, the word op in Afrikaans is up. So this is very specifically used when you talk about going up in the air. Opstyg. So this one is what you'll use when a plane or an aeroplane takes off. That is opstyg. Right, so sy bestyg die trappe. She ascends the stairs. But then die vliegtuig styg op. The aeroplane takes off or ascends. But opstyg is the only one we're going to use when the aeroplane ascends the skies. It's not going to be bestyg. The last two verbs, and it's a bit of a mouthful. Dal. Dal is the Afrikaans word for descend. But in English, you can say, I descend or they descended the stairs. And in Afrikaans, we have the word bestyg for ascend. When you ascend the stairs, then you bestyg die trappe. But you don't dal the trappe, alright? So when you descend the stairs in Afrikaans, you don't dal the stairs, even though it is the word for descend. So just to confuse you a little bit more, these last two clips, you really have to study in depth. So when we come to temperature, we use dal. Die klip dal na die boding van die dam. That means the stone descends to the bottom of the dam. Or die temperatuur dal, which means the temperature is going down. Then we have gaan af or gaan op. Now, we've had bestyg die trappe, which bestyg ascends sounds like a more graceful bestyg die trappe. Gaan op or gaan af is usually the verb we use when you go up or down the stairs. So when you ascend, it can be bestyg, but mostly it's gaan op when you go up or down, up the stairs, right? When you go down the stairs, it is only gaan af. It is not dal. So, I don't make the rules, but you gaan op or you bestyg, but you gaan af and not dal. This has been terrible language-wise. Right, so ek gaan op of ek gaan af. I go up or I go down the stairs. And then you'll see there also, if you say ek gaan af, dan sit met die trappe. So I go down the stairs. Or I go up the stairs would be ek gaan op met die trappe. You can't say ek gaan op die trappe. Then it means you're just on the stairs. So it must be directly translated in English. That would be I go up with the stairs, which is not correct in English, but in Afrikaans it is ek gaan op met die trappe of ek gaan af met die trappe. Right, and the last one is lê. It is the act of lying down, but now that I think of it, it's also to lay an egg. So I'm adding that one after recording now because I just realized I left that one out. Lê is to lie down. So ek lê op my bed, I'm lying down on my bed, or I'm lying on my bed. Ek lê op die bed, I lie on the bed. Ek gaan nou lê, I'm going to lie down now. Hy lê al die hele middag. He's been lying down all afternoon. And then the last one, the chicken lays an egg. Die hoender lê 'n eier. Wow, okay, so that was a mouthful. Thank you so much for watching and for spending this time with me. I hope you've learned a lot. Now, there are definitely more verbs, many more verbs, and I will for sure make another verb video in the future. The verbs that are left are either not used that often or in general conversation, or they are more complex or more intricate. But I definitely will make one or more verb videos in the future. Have an awesome day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.